My name's Pete Woods. You're watching Hexham TV. Who are you?
I'm Christine Smith and I'm coordinator of Newcastle Wear and Tees WASPI Group.
And I'm Jane Cowley, and I'm the campaign manager for the WASPI campaign, and I'm also the local coordinator for the Northumberland WASPI group.
So, what is WASPI?
Well, WASPI stands for Women Against State Pension Inequality, and we were set up back in 2016 when women born in the 1950s suddenly began to realise that they weren't going to get their pension at 60 when they'd anticipated getting it, but would rather have to wait some years, many of them as many as 6 years. And this came as a huge shock to the women involved because the government hadn't been in touch with them at all. The law was changed in 1995, and it wasn't until the 2016 or so that women began to realise that this was happening to them. And a lot of women had made really quite life-changing decisions by that point. They'd perhaps given up work to look after an older relative. They'd perhaps decided to reduce their working hours, thinking they only had a couple of years to go until they'd get their pension. And then suddenly they found themselves with another 6 years to go in many cases before their state pension would kick in. And, you know, for women who had left the workplace expecting to get their pension at 60, suddenly they found themselves on the jobs market in their late 50s, struggling to get extra work. And many of them have had, you know, really very difficult financial situations because of the lack of notice that we've had. Now, we're not about saying women should get their pension at 60. That isn't what we believe at all. We're very happy that the pension ages should be the same for men and women. But what WASPI does object to is the lack of notice of the change. And it's that lack of notice that we're campaigning against. We've been doing this a long time now. And in March this year, the parliamentary ombudsman said that, yes, we were absolutely right, that we should have had proper notice, that the government didn't do what it was supposed to do. They didn't inform us properly. And because of that, we should have compensation for the injustice of not hearing about it and, you know, all the problems that lack of notice has caused. Now, that was in March. The Conservative government kicked it around a little bit until the election. We've had the election. Labour say they're looking at it, but, you know, we're now in October and they were elected in July, but we've had no clear statement from them at all. And that's the reason why we're perhaps moving ahead with a demo that perhaps we can talk a little bit about later.
So, tell me how many people are affected by the WASPI situation.
Locally in the northeast, we have 65,000 women affected, and in the Hexham Northumberland area, you have 12,000 in your constituencies. And these are people who are working class. They were cleaners, they did part-time jobs. They do not, on the whole, have a private pension and are totally reliant on the state pension, made even worse now by the winter fuel payment going up. And we got together here in Newcastle upon Tyne and locally, and we work very closely with Jane in Northumberland. And starting off in 2015 with no experience at all, we had to go around and talk to people and make sure that they knew what was going on. And people were devastated. And the easiest way we could do that, the WASPI campaign, we formed local groups from all over the UK, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and we do actually have an international group as well. We lobbied MPs, we tried to get the press interested, we went to local councils, we went along and spoke to unions and basically got everybody on board. We have full support of councils from Stockton to Berwick. We have 26 Labour MPs in our area, and we have 2 Conservative MPs who have all signed the pledge to say they support us. And now they need to take some action because nearly 300,000 WASPI women have died. And we know that because the WASPI campaign commissioned a research by a company called Statista, who looked back over the records, and one woman dies every 13 minutes. And from the start of this campaign, we have lost 300,000 women. The government, by changing legislation, have gained £181 billion, and in compensation, we are asking for a fraction of that back, bearing in mind that each woman has lost round about £46,000 each.
So what sort of compensation are you expecting for WASPI Women? And what we're just coming up to a budget now, aren't we? The first Labour budget. What are you hopeful that WASPI Women will receive from the budget next week?
We've been campaigning over the past while for something in the region of £10,000 for women affected, and that was supported by there's an all-party parliamentary group in Parliament. MPs across the House also supported that figure and felt that that was a fair figure to go for. The Ombudsman has come out with a different figure. They've come out with somewhere between £2,000 and £4,000 roughly. Which is less than we were campaigning for. And, we would still like to sort of hold out for a higher amount. The Ombudsman actually sort of handed it over to Parliament to set a figure. So, we are still talking to MPs and saying, as Christine said, that the financial loss that women has incurred is significant. None of us, I think, can see a loss of £40,000 and not notice it. It really has been huge. We understand that we can't get that money back, that is far too much for the country to stump up and pay for. That saving of 181 billion that Christine talks about has helped to fill the black hole that we hear an awful lot about from the government these days. And we feel it's only right and proper that part of that saving should come back to us as compensation for the government simply not doing the job properly.
So I understand that there's a demonstration taking place shortly. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we decided that enough is enough, and we need to go down and make our feelings known to the House down in the Big Smoke. So we are travelling from all over the country on Budget Day, 30th of October, in Parliament Square. Women are buddying up with travel. We're fundraising to some women can't afford to go but would like to go. My group in particular has been fundraising to pay train fares. We're also kitted out in our gear. We have horns, we have whistles, we have pans with a spoon, and we're going to go down there and we're going to tell the government exactly what we think.
And that you want some action?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's unfortunate. You would think, that they've had the report since March. It's only 100 pages. Somebody could have taken a look at that by now. And as I say, all the time they're sitting on the laurels, people are suffering even more. And that £10,000 would be like winning the lottery to impoverish women who have nothing. And from the government's point of view, any compensation we received would be spent in the local economy, which benefits everybody, benefits local businesses, benefits councils, it benefits the government because we'll get tax back on it. So we can't see what the problem is.
Now, you mentioned that you've got all the MPs on your side in the North East. What would you expect, or what would you ask those MPs to do over the coming days?
We would expect them to contact, because decisions come from the top. This is a political decision and it comes from the top. And we'd like them to speak to Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and everybody else on the top table who can make these decisions, because we even have photographs of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer holding up the placard saying, "We support the WASPI Women for fair and fast compensation." They made that promise to the British people, and we would like to see that executed as soon as possible. It's gone on 9 years now.
So
on the subject of MPs, we should just say that yes, we've got great, good support here in the North East, but across the whole country, we know that we've got huge numbers of backbench MPs who support us, and that goes equally for the big new intake of Labour MPs that we saw in the election, as well as those longer-serving MPs who've been in Parliament for some years. And we're really pleased to see that new intake have got up to speed very quickly with the WASPI situation and are standing very firmly behind us and saying that compensation has to be paid.
We also have cross-party support with full support of the SNP, the Green Party, Liberal Democrats, DUP, and at the last vote in Parliament, wasn't it 26 Conservative MPs voted in our favour? Now they're in opposition. I think there might be a few more, because that's the way it works, isn't it?
if people want to find out more about the WASPI campaign and perhaps think they might be someone who's been affected by it, where should they go for further information?
If they go on to www.waspi.co.uk, that is a great source of information. You can join the campaign if you would like to. WASPI also have Women Against State Pension Inequality Facebook page. You can get more information there. And on the site, you can look up your local group. It's very important, if you are affected, that you become involved locally to lobby your MP.
And that's WASPI, spelt WASPI, isn't it?
That's right, yes, yes.
So, as you say, there's a new government. The reports there, the decisions have been made that compensation should be paid. You're demonstrating on the 30th of October in London. It's now for the government to respond to your campaign and to all those women who have found out that they're not going to get their pension at the time they expected at the last minute, and really had to make some really drastic decisions.
Yes. Peter, women have lost their savings, they've lost the family home, and people up here in the North East particularly going along to claim benefits. It's like the old living off the parish. There's a huge amount of pride there. And they don't want to do that. Had government told them in 1995 or shortly afterwards that this was going to happen, you could plan ahead. You can't plan ahead with 12 months' notice. That is life-changing. People who have worked and paid into the system their whole life, and we're not going to take it from government that they found a 22 billion black hole, because WASPI Women and everybody else in this country, we worked to make this country rich. We didn't cause the debt.
Jane and Christine, thank you very much for talking to Hexham TV about the WASPI Women campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.